Hello everyone and welcome to another pawn endgame lesson with Coach P from masterchess.com. In this video, we're going to go over the topic of the breakthrough. To fully understand this lesson, you need to have knowledge about the following pawn endgame topics: the square of the pawn, landmines, and counting in chess. If you're not familiar with those lessons, I encourage you to look at those lessons first and then look at this lesson. I will put a link to those lessons in the description below. Many times in chess, you end up in a pawn endgame where the kings are far away from the pawns. In those positions, knowing the strategy of the breakthrough is crucial. So in this first position, it's white to move, and white is winning. However, if he doesn't play this position correctly, he can lose the opportunity to win or even lose the game in just one move. For example, if here white makes the mistake of moving the king to g1, he already lost his opportunity for a win. And now black can draw this game. After pawn to b6, the best that white has is a draw, no matter how he captures on b6. If white plays c takes on b6, black will capture back. And here, after white captures on b6 and black captures back, the best that white has is a draw. Coming back, no better is a takes on b6. After a takes on b6, here white needs to capture on b6. If he plays pawn to c6, now he is losing. And I'm just going to fast forward to the moves to see why. And after black captures both of white's pawns, he's going to win this game. However, coming back after c takes on b6 and c takes on b6, this is a drawn game. But coming back from the very beginning, with white to play here, white is totally winning. The correct move is pawn to b6. This will allow white to create a passed pawn no matter what black plays here. There's only two options that he has. If black plays c takes on b6, all that white needs to do is simply move the pawn to a6. And now there's two options that black has. If he captures the pawn on a6, white will simply march the pawn on the c file with c6, and he's going to win this game, promoting to a queen. Coming back, after pawn to a6, if instead of taking the pawn on a6, black captures the pawn on c5, here white will simply take the pawn on b7 and then promote on the next move, winning the game. Coming back from the very beginning, after b6, we looked at c takes on b6. I do want to mention that no better is a takes on b6. Here white can simply play the same way. He's going to push the pawn to c6. And now if b takes on c6, white will push the pawn to a6, promoting to a queen. We saw that if black captures on a5, white simply needs to take on b7, winning the game. So as we've seen in this position, when the kings are far away from the pawns, always look for opportunities to create a passed pawn via breakthrough. This next position, it's black to move, and if we analyze this position a little bit, you can see that the kings are on the right side of the board, and black has a pawn majority on the left side of the board. He has 4 pawns versus 3. Also, white has doubled pawns on the c file. Looking at these imbalances, you should sense that black might have the opportunity for a breakthrough. And I encourage you to pause the video and think of how you would play this position if you were black. Okay, assuming that you've thought about the position, I'm going to go over the answer. So here the correct move is pawn to c4. After this, black is totally winning, as he will be able to create a breakthrough, a passed pawn that will march all the way to the end of the board. After this, if white tries to retreat with king to g3, black will play pawn to c5. If white plays h4 to keep the black king away from his pawns, here black is simply going to go for a breakthrough. After pawn to b4, there's nothing that white can do to block black from reaching a passed pawn. If he plays c takes b4, black will capture back with c takes b4. After king to f4, pawn to a4. King to e4, pawn to b3. If c takes on b3, c takes b3, a takes b3, black will simply move the pawn to a3, promoting it to a queen, winning the game. Coming back, if instead of moving the pawn to h4, white will try to use the king to go after black's pawn on the left side, let's say king to f4. After pawn to b4, c takes b4 and c takes b4. If now white goes after black's pawn on the left side, he's not going to make it in time. If we count, it's going to take white 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves to take black's pawns, and then he's going to push the pawn to a4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 moves to promote. However, for black, he only has 1, 2, 3, 4 moves to take the pawn, then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 moves to queen. So I'm just going to fast forward through the moves to see this continuation. And you could see here, black promoted first, and he's going to be able to win this game. Coming back to this position, if instead of moving the king to e4, white will try to push the h-pawn now, black is still going to be able to get a breakthrough. After pawn to a4, king to e4, b3, c takes b3, c takes b3, a takes b3, black will move the pawn to a3, and now white cannot get into the square of the pawn, which means he's not going to be able to capture black's pawn from promoting. So in these type of positions, always be careful not to have your king too far away from the pawns on the opposite side, as a breakthrough can happen. Or another way to defend in this case is making sure that a breakthrough does not happen. So let's take a look at a few strategies to see how to stop a breakthrough from happening. So in this position, it's black to move, and we could see that the kings are far away from the pawns, and white has the potential of creating a breakthrough. But with black to move here, he can stop that. The correct move is moving the pawn to c6. After this, white has three options. He can either take the pawn on c6, he can push the pawn to b6, or he can move the pawn to a5. So let's take a look at all those options. If he captures on c6, after black captures back, white is totally blocked and there's no breakthrough. Coming back, if white tries pushing the pawn to b6, after pawn to a6, the position is totally blocked and there is no more breakthrough. And coming back, the only other option that white has is moving the pawn to a5. And here, black needs to be careful. He cannot capture on b5, because after this, after pawn to a6, b takes on a6, pawn to c6, white will be able to promote first and he's going to win this game. However, coming back after pawn to a5, what black needs to do here is move the pawn to a6. And now, no matter which way white takes, black is able to block the position. If white plays b takes on a6, black will simply capture back and this position is blocked. And if white captures on a6, after black captures back, again, this position is blocked and there is no breakthrough. And here's another position. It's also black to move, where black is trying to stop white from reaching a breakthrough. If we look on the right side, we could see that white has 4 pawns against 3, and he's going to try to fight for a breakthrough. However, with black to move, black can prevent that. I encourage you to stop the video and think about how you would play this position as black, and then hit play after you thought about it. Okay, assuming that you've thought about the position, let's go over the answer. So here with black to move, the correct response is moving the pawn to f6, blocking the f file where white has doubled pawns. After this, white has two options, moving the pawn to g5 or moving the pawn to h6. If he moves the pawn to g5, after h6, black is able to stop the breakthrough. If he captures on g6, black will simply capture back. And the same scenario happens if he captures on the h file. After black captures back, there is no more breakthrough. Coming back, after pawn to f6, we looked at pushing the pawn to g5. A better try for white will be moving the pawn to h6. After this, black will respond with g takes h6, and now pawn to f4. Here, black needs to be aware of the breakthrough that can happen, and he needs to use the king to get inside the square of the pawn. So he needs to move the king to d5. After pawn to g5, h takes g5, f takes g5. After f takes g5 and pawn to f6, black is able to get inside the square of the pawn, and then after he captures the pawn, he's going to be able to win the game. And coming back from the very beginning, we saw that the correct response of blocking the breakthrough is moving the pawn to f6. You might wonder, does this work if black will move the pawn to h6? And the answer is actually no. This will be a terrible blunder. After this, white can play the pawn to f6. Here, after g takes f6, pawn to f4. After king to d4, pawn to g5. After f takes g5, f takes g5. If the black king is trying to get inside the square of the pawn with king to e5, after g takes on h6 and king to f6, even though black is inside the square of the pawn, he's not going to be able to prevent them from promoting. You could see that the pawns on h5 and h6 create a wall, not letting the black king get to the passed pawn. So here, after king to c2, white will simply capture the pawn and come and help his pawns. There's nothing that black can do. His pawn is stuck, his king cannot go towards the pawn. If he tries to attack the pawn on h6, he's not going to be able to prevent it from promoting. If he retreats, let's say king to e7, white will push the pawn, and now black is not inside the square of the pawn. After king to f8, the pawn will promote and white will win the game. So I encourage you to visit my website, masterchess.com, where you'll be able to practice a lot of these positions against the computer. All you have to do is click on Endgame versus Computer, Pawn Endgames, and then the breakthrough. Over here I have a lot of different types of positions for intermediate, advanced, and master level players. All you need to do is click on the picture and then play against the computer. If you like my content and appreciate my website, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, like and share my videos, as that will promote my channel, helping me to keep this website for free. Thank you and have a great day.